All right. Nishchit has this question that what is the quiz 2 portion? We'll have SDT, IR and code generation without optimization. I'll post it on. Okay. So we were looking at live variables analysis, and this was required because we wanted to perform register allocation. And let's say that we perform this live variables analysis, which was a backwards pass starting from use to the definitions, and using that we might be able to perform different or make certain decisions with respect to what variables can go into registers globally and what registers can be left free for local allocation within the basic block. So let's say that for our example, we decide that R0, R1, R2 are the ones which should hold A, B and D globally, and R3 gets used for the local allocation within the basic block. If that is the case, then how the code will look like, that is shown in this slide. So B and D get loaded, since that is a global allocation that happens outside all of this control flow graph that we have. So that means that there is some initial block, let's say start block or so, where you can push these variables into R1 and R2. We also said R0 somewhere, right? We said R0 should contain A. Oh, but A was not A was not live at the start of basic. So A was not live at the start of the basic block, and therefore we decided not to worry about A at this stage because A is anyway going to get loaded with because of this instruction as A equal to B plus C. Right. Okay, so accordingly we write down the instructions. Note that R3 gets used here as the kind of local register, and then R3 is also the one which is going to be part of the store instruction. So all of these loads and stores are going to happen with respect to R3. Similarly here, and similarly this load, these two loads, and then there is a store. Similarly R3's load and so on. Finally, at the end of all this processing, so let's focus on these two blocks. Let's first look at this part. So when all this processing gets done, at that time again the B and D get pushed to the from register to their memory location, which means that in between you are not storing the values of B and D to the main memory, right? Although there might be an instruction which says B equal to something or D equal to something, it was using directly these R1 and R2 rather than the memory location, and that improves the execution efficiency. And that also indicates that if you have more number of registers available, your efficiency of the program execution is likely to be better. And why do we store only R1 and R2 and why not R0? In basic block, the last basic block, which is probably an extra basic block which you can add, that is at the end of the program. Why are we pushing only R1 and R2 and not R0? Because R0 should be holding the value of A. It is not live in the last block. That is correct. So we had the print. I'll just go back to that. We had the print statement which had BCDEF, and that A is not appearing there, which means that A is not live. If it is not live, you don't need to worry about it because it is not going to get used. There is no need to push it back to the memory location, right? So there is also an interesting advantage of this live variables analysis. All right. So with respect to a function call, unless you are performing interprocedural analysis or interprocedural optimization, you will have to push the appropriate registers which hold the variable values to the variable's memory locations. For example, in this case, we said that BDEF are the ones that are live here. Right? So BDEF, why did we add A to R2? I think that is a typo. This should have been D. A is not live in the function, and therefore this should be store of B in R2 because anyway D in R2 because anyway we are using R2 for D, and A is not live anyway, right? So again you are going to store B and D for this. If A would have been live in that function, in that fun, then we would have stored A also within R0. Okay. As far as E and F are concerned, which are also live apart from B and D, which are live in fun, those, since we are using local allocation, it's kind of guaranteed that those are going to be in the memory locations. For example, we can check that there is this store of R3 to E, right? So that is guaranteed to be within that function, within that memory location. All right, so that gives us some way of allocating registers. Then there are numerous different ways, numerous different heuristics which we can talk about, and we'll discuss a few aspects of that with respect to spilling. So just to recap, R1 and R2 remain assigned to B and D throughout because that's a global allocation. R3 is loaded repeatedly, right? So it's used more like an auxiliary register. It's a scratch pad register. A is not live, therefore it doesn't get loaded. At the end of the loop, register values are stored back, like what happens at the end of the control flow graph in this basic block. Right? So this was a way to allocate registers. We said that we are performing some cost-benefit analysis based on how many uses of that variable exist in the program or in the basic block, and depending upon that we are going to check also the liveness information, and using that I am going to use some formula using which I will decide which variables to push into what registers. There is another way which is more often used, and that's related to graph coloring, and we have discussed this also earlier. So the question here is that you are trying to reduce the problem of register allocation to a graph coloring problem. Right? For showing that it is hard, we have to reduce the graph coloring problem to register allocation. Right? But let's assume that that has already been done. What we want is a mapping from register allocation, that I want to allocate variables to registers, and that can I cast into a graph coloring problem, so that if I have an algorithm to solve graph coloring problem, I will be able to solve the register allocation problem. Right? So these are two different directions. For showing something NP hard, we show a reduction from known problem to the unknown problem. That is from graph coloring to register allocation. But for performing some sort of, if you have an algorithm for a problem, right, for a known problem, then the unknown problem needs to be reduced to the known problem, solve that problem, and map back the solution to the unknown problem. So that is what we are going to do. So in this case, what are the vertices and what are the edges? Because we are talking about a graph here. So the vertices we decided are going to be different variables, right, in this graph, and the edges were, can somebody recall? What were the edges in our graph? So it should be derived from the information that in case of graph coloring, and we are talking about vertex coloring here, the two variables which are connected by an edge should be given different colors. That is what we mean by a vertex coloring problem. And in this case, it should mean that these two variables which are connected should get different registers. And why would you be forced to give two different registers to two variables is because what Sarthak has mentioned, that they are live at the same time. Right? So their live ranges kind of overlap. So one variable might be live across, let's say, this range, another might be live at this range, and their live ranges overlap, and therefore we would like to push them into two different registers. Right? So again, there are variations of this, and we'll talk about that. But that is the basic premise under which we want to create the graph. Where will you get this information that they are live at the same time? Our liveness analysis that we did on the last slide, that is going to help us. Sometimes the variables may be directly used, sometimes variable instances might be used. For example, if you can figure out how many variables are going to be there, let's say inside a loop or something, you might be able to account for the number of instances if you unroll the loop, if you know the loop bound, etc. But typically it is the variable information. Sometimes in the SSA form, if the program is in SSA form, then we can talk about different instances of the same variable, A1, A2, A3, etc. Right? So the edges is going to be co-live information, which means that the two variables should be live at the same program point. Then we connect them using an edge. In this case, we are going to say that it's an undirected edge. It doesn't matter if A and B are co-live, then there is a symmetric relationship, and therefore we will use an undirected edge. Once we create this graph and give it to a graph coloring algorithm, right, there are lots of graph coloring algorithms. Although the problem is hard, there are approximation algorithms, heuristics, etc., which get used, which are polynomial time. So we can use one of such algorithm, get the graph coloring information, that is the neighboring nodes are colored differently, and then the colors that we use, those can be mapped back to the registers. And a corollary of that is that if two variables have the same color, right, two variables in this graph, they get the same color, that means that they are not co-live, and therefore you can use the same register for the two. And that typically means, that does mean that they are at different program points. So our program, which was like this, and we had computed various live ranges, so I am going to color code them based on the information that the co-live information gives. And I am going to draw those live ranges here. Right? So for example, if you focus on small a, it is live along this path or along these instructions in the basic block, in the first basic block. Right? So we have this a definition, from there the liveness starts. It is live definitely across at this instruction, and therefore it is live at the second instruction also, and there is a future use of A, and therefore A is live at this instruction also. So as far as this basic block is concerned, it is live across these four instructions is what we will say. Typically we say that it is live at the end of the definition. We don't say that it is live at the at this instruction. We typically say that it is live at the end of this instruction, because the definition of A happens after the operands B and C have been fetched. Okay, so according to that, I can talk about that A is live, let's say here, right, but not at the end of this particular instruction. At the end of this basic block, A is not live, but A is live as far as fetching of the operands is concerned, so that is okay. And so on. So we can have all this information computed for different variables. So I have computed it for A here, right? So A is live up to the reading of A here, right? Beyond that, as soon as the definition to E happens, the A stops being live. Okay. Um, Similarly, I would like you to draw the live ranges of other variables B, C, D, E, F across all basic blocks. So as far as A is concerned, there is no other place where A is live. So the computation of A's live range is done. Let's go to B, C, D, E, F. So please draw that in your copies. So we have quiz 2 on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Those of you who want the morning class to be a doubt session, please post in the chat box. If there are a few, then we'll have the doubt session, otherwise we'll have the regular class. Or if you want it on Monday, that is also okay. And if you don't want it, that is also okay. Okay, Anishwar has voted for doubt session on Monday. Okay. Okay, so just to complete that thread, at least the responses I received, they say that doubt session on Monday at 9 o'clock. So we'll have a doubt session at that time and the regular class on Tuesday. Okay, so B gets reassigned here. How does edge change like with variable A? B gets reassigned here. Which one you are talking about, Naman? There is assignment to B in, let's call it basic block 3, and then this is basic block 4. B2. B2 was on the left hand side, I think, this one. But anyway, I am showing this the result for B, B3, okay. Right, so as far as B is concerned, the variable B is used here and therefore, and the definition is here. So we'll say that it is live across these two, assignment to E and the if instruction. As far as B here is concerned, that is a new definition of B, and therefore we don't say that CDEF, the B is not live at the start of this basic block 4, and therefore the live range is just going to be here, and then there will be another live range which is shown at a basic block 4. We say that it is live from end of assignment. That is correct. Because only when the definition happens, then the variable may become live, depending upon if there is a future. So do the edges change in each basic block? Do they just change in basic block? What does that mean? I'm sorry, I'm not able to. So if there are multiple assignments to the same variable in the basic block, then yes, there could be a gap between, I mean, there could be multiple segments of the same live range for the same variable. That is possible. Can we use, so do we count that instruction as well? Ideally, no. In fact, what we have to do is, I mean, although I am showing it in the context of 3-address code, we'll have to put it as load separately and store separately, and then from the store you can have that line, and the loads are not going to be. So in this case, for example, the first instruction in the first basic block, as far as B plus C the loads are concerned, A is not live. Only when A gets defined, that is store to A happens, after that A is live, right? So this we'll have to kind of separate out. Although there is no current way of doing this, at max what you can do is that assume that this is a set of pixels, and from half of those pixels A is live, like that. I mean, just for our understanding purpose. We can use A's color for B in B4. That is possible. That is possible. As you can see that, yeah, so that is possible. So what Sarthak is asking, that is possible. In fact, there are other combinations you might be able to do. One important thing which I would like to mention here is that each definition is anyway giving rise to a new variable in a different sense. So if you think about it in an SSA form, this B is going to be a separate variable than whatever B is the one that gets used. For example, this B is a separate variable than this, right? And therefore we have let's say B1 at one place in the basic block 3, and let's say B2 in the basic block 4, right? So therefore you will be anyway be able to reassign the register to some other variable. Alright, so I hope you have computed it. So let's quickly do that for B. So B is anyway live all throughout. However, it stops being live after this use in the first basic block, and therefore the live range of B is shown in this purple color. Similarly, live range of B in this B3 is going to be like this. B is not live neither at the start nor at the end of this basic block 2. B is live here, and yeah, B is also live at the this particular basic block towards the end, so that also should be marked. Okay, and then I am going to compute it for others, let's say C, D, E, F, and so on. Right? Just watch for a few moments. If there is any question, I can take those up now. I will just erase the ink so that it becomes readable. So as you can see, there is a single instruction here in this basic block, but just to make sure that F is live, after the definition I have reduced the height of that. I mean, this is just for our understanding purposes. I mean, you are going to have different instructions which are going to be marked as start and end of this live range. So that is probably going to be easier, but this is just for our visual depiction. Interestingly, all of these B, C, D, E, F are live throughout these, but of course that also happens a little after the definition of B. But as far as C, D, E, F are concerned, those are live all throughout because there is a print at the end. Okay, so we make a graph using SSA. If you are using an SSA formulation, then you make a graph using that. Those compilers which do not use SSA form, they will probably have different instances of the variables. Right? Even in the SSA form, we will have different instances of the same way. We'll keep track of different instances as we discussed last time. So having an SSA form explicitly helps you distinguish across these variables easily. In fact, many of the other analysis also that you will do will become easy if you have it in SSA form, because you are able to distinguish that these are different definitions. Even the reaching definitions analysis that we are going to study next, that is going to help us, the SSA is going to help us improve or make it easier rather. Can you please go to the last slide just for a minute? Okay. Last slide meaning the previous control flow graph, or what did you want? This one? Okay, sure. All right. So just check if these things look okay. Any questions so far? How does the graph differentiate between instances? No, graph per se will not be able to differentiate. That is the onus on the compiler, that different variables have to be given different nodes. Now, if you have an SSA form, that is kind of given. Otherwise, you will have to do that assignment. So, if you say that B is going to be a single node into this, then B is going to have a new range starting at the definition as soon as the definition of B happens, right? So although it will have the same node, it's not going to affect the live range with respect to the same variable earlier, right? So for example, whether this is simply B or you call it B2 in the SSA form, that is not going to change the live ranges, right? Because it's a definition, right? So the live range is going to start from here. Whether it is for B or for some other variable, it's not going to affect anything, because it's a new definition. Does that seem reasonable? So for example, if you had given the register to a particular variable, let's say B in this case, this particular definition can make use of either the same register or the new register. It doesn't matter, because you have to anyway write to this. For each live range, a new node in the graph. No. For each live, so the live range is getting computed for each node. Okay, let's step back. Let's start from that. You have a program, assuming that it is not in SSA form like we have so far, right? If it is in SSA form, things are relatively simpler. If it is not in SSA form, then you will have multiple definitions to the same variable in the program. As soon as you have multiple definitions, the live ranges are anyway going to get split. So for example, if this is A equal to B plus C, and in the same basic block there is A equal to E plus F, another definition of A, then the live range is going to, of the first assignment is not going to go beyond the second assignment. So the live range is anyway going to get split, right? So for example, if you see this definition to D, the live range is split. That black color that I am showing, there is earlier D is live, so there is use of D until the use of D in D minus B expression, and then the live range is split, and then it continues again because there is redefinition of D. These two live ranges are not going to overlap, and therefore whether you put it in the same register or different register, it's not going to hurt you. You will still have to push it into some register. So let's say that I have given, let's say, R3 to D. Whether I reuse R3 as a store in this instruction or I store it into R4, that is not going to change anything, right? And therefore it's not going to affect us irrespective of whether it is in SSA form or not. The variables or the nodes within this graph coloring problem for the graph are going to be decided by the variables, right? So A, B, C, D are variables, so those are going to represent. Live ranges are not representing the nodes in the graph. Although live ranges are associated with the variables or the nodes in the graph, live ranges are not getting are represented as a node in the graph, right? Because you might have multiple live ranges for the same variable, but you will have a single instance of that variable in the graph. If you have SSA form, then different live ranges are going to be decided by different variables or variable instances, let's say. In that case, you can say that the live range is going to be associated with a particular node in this graph, right? Because they are anyway b1, b2, b3, we will consider it as different variables. So in that case, it is okay to mention it that way. Any other questions here? Okay, wait, I'll just get my headphone.
Yes, Venkat.
Sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, what my doubt was actually is that when we are making the graph, and like I get that at each definition the live range will be split. But when I have a single node, like if for one variable I keep one node, while making the edges to other variable nodes, I'll be considering all the overlap for each and every range, live range for this variable, right?
That is correct.
So like even if it is split, like for B, I have in each block, let's suppose I have some range, and whatever variable is overlapping in both the blocks, for those variables, I'll be drawing an edge between B and that variable, right?
Oh, I see, I see, I see. So what you are saying is that by making it instance specific, will we be able to improve the precision of this register allocation? Because one particular instance might have live range overlap with another variables instance, but not all instances. I see. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Let me see. So let's say B has multiple instances, B1 and B2. B1 overlaps with, let's say, A1, but B2 doesn't overlap with A1. Yeah, so you might be able to give B2 the same register as A1. But if you have just B2AH, then both of these will have to be given the same color. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, so I think that's a good point. So if you have it in the instance specific form, then you are going to improve the precision of the analysis, and that is going to give you a better register allocation. It's just that the number of instances might increase, which might be, I mean, okay with your analysis. Yeah, so that's a good point, Venkat. Thanks.
So SSA would be better in that aspect, right? Because
yes, SSA will give you a better information. That makes sense. Sure, that makes sense.
Thank you, sir.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, Naman has a let A and B have overlapping live range and C has a different live range. Then there is a new definition of B overlapping with C and not with A. How does the graph change then? Is this so A and B have overlapping live range, okay, that is okay, and C has a different live range. Then there is a new definition of B overlapping with C and not with A. Yeah, so again, this is going to be related to what we just discussed. So if it is instance specific, then you will be able to have a different register being used for the initial part of B with C, whereas the second part of B which overlaps with C can use a different register, will have to use a different register. But if it is variable specific, by the way, I should also mention, so when you have a global allocation and you push these variables directly into the global registers, then you will not be able to distinguish across these variables in the different SSA forms. Right? So we'll have to assume that it is going into the all B1, B2, B3 in the global allocation are referring to the same variable. When you are using the SSA form for the local allocation, at that time you will not have uh, this. I mean, you will be able to load and store multiple number of times, and at that time you will have the option of changing the register. Right? So the global versus local will also play a role here, even if you are using SSA. So in this Naman's question, yeah, so you will, if it is instance specific, then you will have, you can change the register for B when it starts overlapping with C. If it is variable specific, then you will require 3 different registers. Anishwar says one variable may be assigned multiple registers at different points of time. Yes, that is possible in local allocation. In global allocation, that will not be possible. Any other questions, Anshul? All right. So we'll move ahead from here.
Headphone. Okay, so good. So that gave us some sort of uh, live range overlap, and using that overlap we'll be able to draw the interference graph, right? So interference graph essentially means this graph that we were talking about when we want to convert this register location into a graph theoretic problem. So how would that graph look like? Okay, let me put it this way, that this I am drawing only for the basic block, right? So depending upon how the overlaps are, I can give them uh, different registers. So for example, if these are A, B, C, D, E, F, then there are edges between, let's say, A and F, these overlap, right? So then A and B also overlap, or whatever the colors are, sorry, A and B overlap, then A and C also overlap, and so on. So there are only these two nodes which really do not overlap. These are these two different colors, purple and violet, which are essentially B and E, right? So these two do not overlap, and therefore the graph that I have obtained, that is going to allow me to give B and E the same register, right? So, or the same color. So that is what it indicates. If you in basic, that means that in basic block B1, B and E could use the same register, and we can go back and check how that B1 looked like. So B was getting used here, B was already defined, then B is getting used here. After that, B is not live, and then E is getting defined and then used here, and that shows that their live ranges do not overlap, so we can give them the same register. Okay. So can somebody tell me, or at least draw the graph in your copies? And well, it is kind of evident, but essentially that is going to be some other basic block for which we had obtained it. And as far as A and E are concerned, those should get different colors. That means they can be pushed into the same register. Alrighty, so we'll move ahead from here. But there is something, I mean, whatever we did just now with respect to graph coloring, there is something amiss here. What is it that is amiss? We definitely did it for one basic block. We need to repeat it for all the basic blocks, etc. But does this give us the register allocation? Global allocation? What do you mean by that? That is the global allocation and we have not done the local part. Is that what you are saying? Okay. Yeah, so we have done it at the basic block level, but this can be repeated for, see, let me put it this way. If you concentrate on only the local basic block thing, then you will have to load things into the register at the start of the basic block, store at the end of the basic block. If you do not have the global picture, if you don't do this across basic block optimization. So what can happen is that you might store something at the end of one basic block and then again load the same variable into the same register at the start of the next basic block. Or even if you move it into the another register, even if you load it in the another register at the start of the next basic block, that can be avoided by just moving one from one register to another. Right? So you need that information to be propagated across different basic blocks within the control flow graph. But there is something more serious than that. What is that? So we did this live range analysis. We computed this graph, the interference graph. Using this, we obtained, we colored it, and we obtained that all these nodes should be pushed into the same register or different registers. Right. So that is what is the allocation that we got. But there is something amiss, something wrong. Right. So we just said that from the program, these are the number of registers that are required. Right. So in this case, we are saying that there are 5 registers which are required because there are 5 colors. But it doesn't. I mean, we are talking about code generation. The architecture might not have 5 registers. If your graph has 50 register requirement coloring, that doesn't mean that the architecture has 50 colors. Okay. So that we need to take care of. Sarthak has a question. Do we need to take care of allocation across procedures? Global variables. I didn't say about global variables. I was talking about global allocation of registers. But let's talk about global variables. So global variables, do we need to take care of allocation across procedures? Typically, when you do not perform the interprocedural analysis, typically the global variables get loaded as and when they are required in the instruction of the function, and then at the end of the function, those get pushed back to the register, pushed back to the main memory. So that way we don't need to worry about this, similar to what we just discussed across basic blocks and within basic block. When you perform interprocedural analysis, at that time you'll be able to figure out that at the start of the function the same variable is getting used, so I need not store it back into the main memory, I can reuse the register and so on. So that optimization pass will have to take care of this, but that will happen interprocedurally. Okay. Yeah, I'll come to Nishchit's question, but Sarthak, does that seem reasonable? Okay. So let's come back to the local and global allocation. I'll have to go back to slide earlier. Sorry, it has become a little slow. Okay. So global allocation means that you are going to reserve the registers for certain variables at the start of the control flow graph and then not change their allocation. So internally, whatever are the instructions which were using that variable, in this case, let's say A, B and D, those will not use A, B and D at all. You will just load A, B and D once. For instance, in this case, B and D have been loaded. And then in the end, whatever is the value in those registers, that you are going to store back to B and D. In between, there won't be any memory access with respect to B and D. That is called as global allocation. Whereas in case of local allocation, which happens in case of R3, you are going to use R3 for multiple loads and stores. Right? So the assignment to that register is going to change across different basic blocks throughout the control flow graph. That we call as local allocation. So in our case, when we perform the graph coloring with for the register allocation, we did not take into consideration this global and local allocation. Right? This has to be embedded separately. That okay, I can assign this register to this particular variable and so on. But this variable has a larger use, or it is more important, and so on, or it has a wider live range and so on. Because of that, I'm going to push it into a register. Global allocation is done. So that register is removed. That variable is removed. And then I need to recolor possibly this graph. Because some edges are going to get removed. The nodes are going to get removed, whichever have been assigned this global thing. And then I might be able to recolor it better. Right? So that is also one possibility. Okay. Any other questions here? Okay, good to see this discussion. Okay, let me come back to our what was wrong with that. So just to recap that part. So coloring gave us the maximum number of registers required for that particular program. In this case, it could be a function. It just gave us the maximum number of registers required. It doesn't give us, it doesn't obey that there are a certain number of registers only available in the architecture, and therefore this is something which whether it is possible or not. And in general, if you have the number of registers required smaller than or equal to the number of registers you have in the ISA, then you are done. You don't require anything more. But typically you might require more number of registers, and in which case we have to move certain registers to the main memory, free up those registers. Right? So that is what we are calling as the spilling. So we have to generate a spill code. Why spill code? Because we are going to insert instructions into the generated code to move the register value into the main memory, and main memory of whatever is the variable that the register is holding value of. And once you store it back into main memory, then the register is free. Now it can be used for some other variable to load the value, right? Or it can be used for calculations and so on. So if B and E use the same register, that means B is not globally assigned to R1, right? So this global allocation part also comes into picture here. Right? So let's talk about a little bit about spilling. Shrisha has a question. On what metric was the global local division done? Based on the benefit alone? Yes, it was based on the benefit alone at that time. Although there are lots of different functions which you can use there. But so whatever we did with respect to global local division, that was done only based on the number of uses. That function f that we used, that can be arbitrarily defined. It can be made more complicated. But whatever we did, that was a simple one. We just used the number of uses of that variable. Okay. So, okay, it's almost time. But let me just quickly initiate the discussion on spilling. So spilling stores a value from a register to memory, right? So this frees up the register, and within basic block, okay, I think this will require some discussion for local as well as global. So I'll come back to this maybe in the next class, which might be on Tuesday, because on Monday we are going to have the doubt session. Any quick questions? What is the syllabus? I just posted it at the start of the class. It's going to be SDT, IR, and code generation without optimization. All right, so we'll stop here. See you. Where does optimization